Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. I am Sam. I am Sam. Sam I am. That's Sam I am, that's Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham?
Reminder: the only bipartisan vote on the Pelosi payoff was against Senate Democrats. Should take note. Bernie Sanders wants to raise taxes on businesses that don't comply with the mandated wage from Washington. It's a stupid idea that will cost Americans their jobs, but I wouldn't expect anything less from him and the progressives in Washington. Phasm 6 sets.
I think it's stupid. I think it's a tax increase, and I wouldn't expect anything else from the progressive Democrats of what they're proposing.
Nancy Pelosi is forcing a vote on H.R. 1, which is designed to weaken election security against voter fraud. It was bad when Democrats introduced it 2 years ago. It's worse now. I'm about to reveal the truth behind their election bill. Watch live here. 785H. Democrats' election bill is not designed to protect your vote. It's designed to put a thumb on the scale in every election in America so that Democrats can turn a temporary majority into permanent control. For him to tells you.
House, actually. And he's not part of that California corruption I mentioned earlier. Mr. McCarthy.
Minority leaders recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This week, Democrats are pushing partisan legislation that would change how we conduct elections and how we can speak about political issues. This legislation is the Democrats' most pressing priority. Every single Democrat is a co-sponsor. Democrats made this bill, H.R. 1, which is reserved for the bills the majority thinks is the very most important. Madam Speaker, you know, and those who are watching and those across the country should understand that when you become the majority, you reserve the first 10 numbers for whatever you want them to be. So this could have been H.R. 2, H.R. 3, H.R. 4, H.R. 5, H.R. 6, all the way up to 10 or go in the any other number. When I went out to talk to my constituents in the world of COVID, out of work, out of school, not one of them would think H.R. 1 would be something for politicians to protect themselves to get reelected. But every single Democrat believes that's the case. It wouldn't just be in my district, but I would say if you talk to any American, they'd say, back to work, back to school, back to health. But Madam Speaker, the priorities here are wrong. But it's not just because the Speaker thinks it's so, because every single Democrat co-sponsored this bill. It was bad when the Democrats introduced it before COVID. It's bad that they prioritized this over the children going back to school, over people going back to work, or making sure every American who wants a vaccine gets one. Nope. It shows the truth. What people think the worst about people in Congress. They prioritize themselves over everything else. Let's understand this bill. After a year of our country suffering through a pandemic, the Democrats' first piece of legislation does not help the millions of students still out of school. It does not help the 10 million Americans who are still unemployed. No, Democrat legislation only helps themselves. Democrats want to use the razor-thin majority not to pass bills to earn voters' trust, but to ensure they don't lose more seats in the next election. Madam Speaker, I know the leadership on the other side predicted that they would win 20 seats. They only lost. I know that this is the most razor-thin majority the Democrats have ever seen in the last 100 years. So I guess that's why it's the top priority for every single Democrat. Now, there's problems with this bill, and let's first understand it. First, H.R. 1 sends public dollars to fund political campaigns. Yes. Can you believe that? The number one priority you got elected to Congress to do, forget everything else. I want to make sure I get more taxpayer money to fund my own campaign. I got to make sure I get reelected, not that the kids go back to school. not to distribute vaccines, but to create a slush fund so that politicians can run for re-election. Let me explain it to you. It's in the fine print. Let's say someone donates $200 to preferred candidate. Under H.R. 1, taxpayers now must chip in not $200, but $1,200. Where in the world can you get that type of return on your investment? That's amazing. You talk somebody into giving you $200 for your campaign, so the taxpayers now have to give me $1,200. No wonder you made it the most important bill, because it only focuses on you. Democrats want to raise this money through new fines on corporations, which the government will use to pay for campaigns and political consultants. I guess Democrats don't actually believe corporate money is bad in politics. Because today, corporations can't give. I guess they found a loophole to help them. Second, H.R. 1 weakens the security of our elections by making it harder to protect against voter fraud. This bill automatically registers voters from the DMV and other government databases, such as food stamps. In most cases, it would prevent officials from removing ineligible voters from the rolls and would make it harder to verify the accuracy of voter information. Currently, an estimated 24 million voter records across the country appear to be inaccurate or invalid. And as we saw during the pandemic, this created chaos and confusion. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent. Everyone has a personal story of your friend, your family, your neighbor receiving a ballot they shouldn't have. Every one of those stories erodes the trust in election integrity. Yet under H.R. 1, future voters could be dead or illegal immigrants, or maybe even registered 2 or 3 times. I guess Democrats just don't care, as long as they get reelected. Third, H.R. 1 rewrites election law and imposes a one-size-fits-all partisan rules from Washington. Under the Constitution, we generally defer to states and counties to run elections. Democrats want to change that. First, they outlawed Dr. Seuss, and now they want to tell us what to say. They want to remove reasonable debates about early voting, registration, and no-excuse mail-in balloting from the states and counties and resolve them with a single federal solution decided by the whims of Washington. Now, it's not unusual because I know the committee is also looking at, even though someone didn't win an election, they want to appoint somebody different in Congress. They want to stop states from listening to their residents on the very best way to protect ballot integrity, whether it's passing voter ID laws or using basic safeguards like checking their voter rolls against the post office change of address system. And they want to mandate a no-excuse mail-in balloting and 15 days of early voting as the post-pandemic norm. Madam Speaker, in the last election, I would get at least twice a week, somebody would send me a picture of the ballots that were mailed to their home, of people who have died, of people who haven't lived there in 8 years. This would guarantee that continues. Fourth, H.R. 1 politicizes the Federal Election Commission by turning it from an evenly divided commission into a partisan one. But they're also going to create a speech czar. Can you imagine? The Federal Election Commission has an even number of Republicans and an even number of Democrats. You have the smallest majority you've had in more than 100 years. So your number one priority is to make sure you can't keep that bipartisan. Let's put our thumb on the scale and make sure we get one more Democrat than Republican. Then we could create a speech czar and tell people what to say and what they can't say. So they can't tell us in a bill we just passed that there's $140 million for a subway just outside the Speaker's office. That'd be wrong. But we also could get $200 but get $1,200 from the taxpayer. Who wouldn't want this bill? Every single Democrat does. Then H.R. 1 weaponizes the IRS. Can you imagine that? Allowing them to consider an organization's political views before granting tax exemptions. So now they're going to pick and choose. You first have to go forward. You know, I thought this was unbelievable until I read this document. If you live in China and you want to fly on an airline, you can walk up to the desk, you can have your money. That doesn't determine whether you get a ticket. You know what determines whether you get a ticket? Your score. What have you said? And if you said something that government doesn't like, you can't fly on that plane. Unbelievable, right? That could never happen in America. Well, now we have a speech czar. We've made sure the Federal Election Commission's where you are. And now we weaponize the IRS to do exactly that. Remember under President Obama's IRS? This power was abused by Lois Lerner and other bureaucrats to target conservatives, nonprofits during the 2012 election. It was a massive scandal, a clear and intolerable violation of public trust, and a crime, which is why singling out groups for political views is banned. 130 nonprofits wrote to Congress to strongly object to H.R. 1. Why would nonprofits object to this? They said America should be able to support causes we believe in without fear of harassment or intimidation. Well, I guess they're right. Because if this majority makes the #1 issue in the world of pandemic, unemployment, and kids out of school, the protection of themselves, I would be afraid too. If you're serious about restoring public trust in government, the ban must remain in place. Madam Speaker, Democrats call H.R. 1 For the People Act, but it really should be called For the Politicians Act. It's not designed to protect Americans' vote. It's designed to put a thumb on the scale in every election in America so that Democrats can turn a temporary majority into a permanent control. It is an unparalleled political grab. I urge all my colleagues to oppose it. I yield back.
Gentlelady from California.
Dear Chuck Schumer, take Pelosi's Silicon Valley subway out of your $19 trillion bill. House Democrats had 3 chances to do the right thing and redirect that $140 million to kids' mental health services. Now it's your turn to what they failed to do. 3MO4.
This message is for Senator Chuck Schumer. Take Nancy Pelosi's subway out of the $1.9 trillion bill. House Democrats had 3 chances to do the right thing. To redirect the $140 million to kids' mental health. Now you have the chance to do the right thing. Don't fail us.
How to create a border crisis. Step 1, stop border wall construction. Step 2, deny that there is a crisis. Step 3, brace for 117,000 migrant children to cross illegally. Call for ifs. I call on everyone from the Biden administration to the local school boards to come together and help put an end to this mental health crisis affecting our children. The immediate solution is to work together to reopen every school in America now. Democrats did not design H.R. 1 to protect your vote. They designed it to put a thumb on the scale of every election in America and keep the swamp swampy. U9AX6.
This week, Democrats are pushing partisan legislation that would change how we conduct elections and how we can speak.
It's Nancy Pelosi's #1 priority. In fact, the legislation is called H.R. 1. Now here's what it would do. First,
H.R. 1 sends public dollars to fund political campaigns.
Not to build roads or bridges, but to add 600% to every small dollar donated by Americans. So let's say Mary from Michigan donates $200 to a preferred candidate. Well, now you have just chipped in another $1,200. Second, H.R. 1 would legalize voting for convicted felons all over the country, even if they were convicted of election fraud. Does that make sense to you? Not only is this dangerous, it's unconstitutional. Now third, H.R. 1 would weaken the security of our elections and make it harder to protect against voter fraud. Here's how. It would automatically register voters from DMV databases. Voting is a right, not a mandate. In most cases, this legislation would actually prevent officials from removing ineligible voters from the rolls and would make it much more difficult to verify the accuracy of voter information. So future voters might be underage, dead, or illegal immigrants, or maybe even registered 1, 2, or 3 times. Democrats just don't care. Democrats call H.R. 1 the For the People Act, but it really is a For the Politicians Act. It's not designed to protect your vote. It's designed to put a thumb on the scale of every election in America and keep the swamp swampy.
If you liked how the 2020 election was run, then you're going to love Nancy Pelosi's election bill. It's called H.R. 1, and it is designed to keep Democrats permanently in power. Here's how to use them 17 odds. Nancy Pelosi is plotting a vote tonight on an election bill that the APLU says contains significant flaws that are detrimental to the health of our democracy. When even the APLU opposes it, that's when you know Democrats have gone too far. Breaking: Democrats just voted to defund the police. The unfunded mandates in their bill H.R. 1280 would cost police departments hundreds of millions of dollars, the equivalent of taking 3,000 cops or more off the streets. Our men and women in uniform deserve better. Democrats just doubled down as the party of defunding the police. Last night they voted to impose hundreds of millions in new costs on police departments, the equivalent of 3,000 cops or more taken off of the streets. Expo 26 to read. Growing up into a choppy CA, Trevor Reed honorably served our country the unjust way. He has been brutalized by the Russian judicial system, has been nothing short of cruel. We won't stop fighting until he is safely back on American soil, surrounded by his family and loved ones.
Her son's a U.S. Marine currently being held in a jail in Russia. 29-year-old Texas native Trevor Reed has been behind bars for a year and a half after convicted of assaulting police officers. That's the charge. His attorneys deny that. About a month ago, the White House urging Moscow to release him as the two countries renewed a nuclear arms deal. Want to bring in Trevor's parents, Paula and Joey Reed, and Texas Congressman August Pfluger. And good morning to all of you. Mr. and Mrs. Reed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Why would Russia want to keep him?
To put it blankly, he was a former United States Marine, and we believe that they've made trumped-up charges against him and gave him the longest sentence in Russian history for that charge, so that they can trade him or gain something of favor from the United States.
Well, Mrs. Reed, the charge is that he grabbed a police officer's arm while he was in custody. The charge is that the police car swerved in the road. And apparently during the trial, within an hour, there was videotape that proved that the car was never affected. How do you reconcile that?
That's correct. We had video that showed that the car never swerved, and it was looked over by experts, by government experts. So we just think it's a trumped up charge, and that's all there is to it.
To Congressman Pfluger, are the Russians listening to your appeal?
Well, Bill, I sure hope so. And you can hear the pain in the Reed family's voices. It's 566 days that Trevor Reed has been held falsely, being used as a political pawn. This week I introduced a resolution with 25 other members of Congress. Senator Cornyn has also done so in the Senate, and we're demanding an immediate release so that he can reunify with his parents. They are using him as a political pawn in a false trial that has no merit. And we want him back.
Just one more question on that. With Cornyn and McCall on your side from members of Congress, have they made any headway with Russian authorities?
I think that Ambassador Sullivan is making good progress there. But the fact is that they're holding him as a pawn. And, it's unwarranted, unmerited. Trevor Reed needs to come home. We're demanding the immediate release, and we're asking President Biden and Secretary Blinken to apply maximum pressure to get him back immediately.
Mr. Reed, what kind of contact do you have with Trevor?
Recently, he started having phone calls to us in the last couple of months. The first 14 months, he was not allowed any phone access. So we're able to talk to him every couple of weeks for about 10 or 15 minutes on a phone call. We're able to send him letters through an electronic system in Russian, and he has to handwrite all of his responses in Russian. They photograph it and they email it back to us.
Wow. How's he doing, Mr. Reed, do you think, when you talk to him?
He's holding up fairly well. Physically, he's okay. He's had some medical problems. It's hard to get medical treatment inside the prisons. but he's doing okay. He's up and down on his emotions about feeling that he's going to be there for 9 years.
Yeah, Mrs. Reed, if they're listening in Moscow, what's your appeal to them to get your son home?
Well, I would just say that we really need him to come home. He's an innocent person, and I would ask that they put themselves in our shoes. You have a child that you love very much, and they've just been taken away from you for no reason.
Well, you sound like great people. I'm wishing you the best of luck, okay, to the Reed family in Texas and in Russia. Congressman Pfluger, let's make it happen. Thanks to all three of you. Can you do that?
Thank
yes,
you.
please. Yeah, we can see it now.
Mr. Himmer, we also have a GoFundMe page, GoFundMe /free-Trevor-Reed, and we've had a lot of expenses incurred, legal expenses, and some future expenses.
We will get the word out. You sound like a great family. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Let's make it a success very soon. Thanks.
First they defunded the police, next they are going to come for your guns, and with HR 1 they want to use federal money to fund their campaigns so they can stay in power permanently. The Democrat agenda, ladies and gentlemen, correct Fulco.
This is why Nancy Pelosi has done what she's done. She brought in proxy voting. She doesn't have people work, so she controls the power to move that socialist agenda through. You know the next thing they're doing in the coming weeks? They're coming after our guns. Then they're going to create what you've watched. Remember what they did on this voting bill. They call it HR 1. You got a pandemic in America. They don't think it's important to put people back to work, back to school, or back to health. They think the number one thing needs to do is protect them as a politician to stay in office and take your taxpayers' money to fund their campaigns.
22 cities, most of which are liberal, Strompolichate substantially defunded their police departments. Predictably, crime rates have spiked. Democrats should have taken it as a warning, not a blueprint. Defunding the police makes our communities less safe. Go 23 Harates. I just wrote to President Biden to request a meeting regarding the crisis developing on our southern border. We must acknowledge the crisis, develop a plan, and in no uncertain terms strongly discourage people from making the dangerous journey to cross illegally. States. 4 years Kern County veterans have been promised a new VA facility in Bakersfield. Today we're getting answers on the countless delays that have plagued this process. Rec David Villadeo, and I won't stop fighting until our hometown heroes have the facilities they deserve. 25R25
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sims, Mr. Lipton, Mr. Costa, thank you for testifying today on the status of the VA's infrastructure. Caring for our nation's veterans has always been a priority of mine, especially for thousands of veterans that live in the Central Valley of California. Many of my veteran constituents drive to the Bakersfield VA clinic for their routine care. In 2010, Congress authorized a new VA outpatient clinic lease project for the Bakersfield facility. This modernized facility, when completed, will provide Central Valley residents with high-quality services. To the frustration of many, especially our Central Valley veterans, this clinic has been plagued with endless delays. Of the 15 new facilities Congress authorized a decade ago, the Bakersfield facility is the only one that remains stalled. In the fall of 2018, VA announced a lease award for a new Bakersfield community-based outpatient clinic facility, which the VA later canceled due to failing to follow its own lease procurement process. The VA then restarted the lease award process all over again and began to evaluate clinic proposals in early 2020 with a projected goal of issuing a new lease award in August of 2020. Subsequent protests delayed this award announcement, and the lease award still has not been made. When does the VA expect to reasonably award a new lease for the new Bakersfield Community Outpatient Center?
I'm going to ask Mr. Costa to address that question as well.
Congressman, thank you for the question. Bakersfield has been an interesting project. There were numerous delays. In my 30 years of doing leasing, I've never seen, frankly, so many protests, either at the agency level, GAO level, or the federal courts. We believe, though, that we see light at the end of the tunnel. The court decision that is allowing us to proceed, and the appeal time period for that has just ended in the last few weeks. So we are proceeding as quickly as we can to actually award major lease in Bakersfield. We expect that to happen by the end of April. I know that folks are frustrated about that, but again, we see light at the end of the tunnel after many, many years.
Thank you. After the VA is able to award a lease, now you're saying end of April, when will construction reasonably begin for this facility?
Generally, when we award a major lease, there's some design work that needs to be done. And with the size of the Bakersfield Clinic, it will probably end up being 2 to 2.5 years to be fully built. Probably taking 6 to 9 months to finish design and start construction. Site work might start earlier than that, but because we haven't awarded a lease, the actual specific terms will be in the contract that has not yet been awarded.
Is there, and obviously this is an even more difficult question to answer, any timeline as to when we could actually have the first patient walk in the door there? I mean, are we talking how many years do you think that would be?
Well, with full activation, probably two years plus a few months with a clinic of this size. But we can confirm that. Frankly, as soon as we get the award done, we'll be happy to come back to you with those details.
All right, well, I appreciate that. One more while I still have a few minutes, or a minute. I understand that many of the delays in getting the Bakersfield Community Outpatient Clinic are up and running caused by the fact that the law permits an entity to protest the same exact matter at both the GAO and the Court of Federal Claims. The ability to protest is important in the procurement process, but I think we have to be practical. Veterans in the Central Valley have been waiting a decade for this clinic, and I'm sure this isn't the only example of protests going on for this long. I think this issue needs to be examined to avoid these situations in the future. Do you have any suggestions that might be able to provide my office and, of course, the committee regarding how we can reform this process to better serve the interests of veterans while also preserving the entities the ability to protest? Our veterans don't have a decade to wait around for modernized facilities.
That's a very broad issue for federal procurement. And not only do we have GAO and the courts, but it starts with protests even within the agency. So there are actually 3 levels of protest possible for the same issues. From the standpoint of getting the mission done, on a personal level, it would be great to be able to streamline some of that. But I'd rather come back to you with more specific recommendations.
I would appreciate that. That's something that obviously had a huge impact. Bakersfield's been waiting 10 years for this facility, and it'd sure be nice to get that done as quickly as possible and prevent this from ever happening again. So, appreciate your time, and Madam Chair, I yield back for 2 seconds.
I still like Dr. Seuss, so I decided to read Green Eggs and Ham RT. If you still like him too, go to bricks each 6.
Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. I am Sam. I am Sam. Sam I am. That's Sam I am, that's Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Would you like them here or there? I would not like them here or there. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you like them in a house? Would you like them with a mouse? I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you like them in a box? Would you eat them with a fox? Not in a box, not with a fox, not in a house, not with a mouse. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I would not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you, could you, in a car, eat them, here they are. I would not, could not, in a car. You may like them, you will see, you may like them in a tree. I would not, could not in a tree, not in a car, you let me be. I do not like them in a box, I do not like them with a fox, I do not like them in a house, I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them. Sam, I am. A train, a train, a train, a train. Could you, would you on a train? Not on a train, not in a tree, not in the car, Sam, let me be. I would not, could not in a box. I could not, would not with a fox. I will not eat them with a mouse. I will not eat them in a house. I will not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I do not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam, I am. Say, in the dark, here in the dark, would you, could you, in the dark? I would not, could not, in the dark. Would you, could you, in the rain? I would not, could not, in the rain. Not in the dark, not on a train, not in the car, not in a tree. I do not like them, Sam, you see. Not in a house, not in a box, not with a mouse, not with a fox. I will not eat them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. You do not like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam, I am. Could you, would you with a goat? I would not, could not with a goat. Would you, could you on a boat? I could not, would not on a boat. I will not with a goat. I will not eat them in the rain. I will not eat them on a train. Not in the dark, not in a tree, not in a car. You let me be. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I will not eat them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam, I am. You do not like them? Say, so you say. Try them, and you may. Try them, and you may, I say. Sam, if you will let me be, I will try them, you will see. Say, I like green eggs and ham. I do. I like them, Sam, I am. I would eat them in a boat, and I would eat them with a goat. And I will eat them in the rain, and in the dark, and on a train, and in a car, and in a tree. They are so good, you see. So I will eat them in a box. I will eat them with a fox. I will eat them in a house. I will eat them with a mouse. And I will eat them here and there. Say, I'll eat them anywhere. I do so like green eggs and ham. Thank you, Sam, I am. Enjoy your day.
It's almost spring, and thanks to Covered likes Little Debbie Swiss rolls and Joe by the knife packed on the pounds from now on Jumping Jacks Daily. This person was busy telling me all about the lies of Kak as he reported from Fantasy Island 4.0. Check out Kinsinger family black sheep demoing after Trump like has a gangsta like some sort of prowler. Didn't Adam say we needed a return to civility that Trump deprived us of? OUR norms? Just another example of a career politician's phoniness. So what the hell is GMA3? It's on at the airport, and this segment, what you need to know. These three adults spoke about Jeopardy for 15 minutes. You watch a game show maybe, when it comes on then you live or life. No one needs to know anything about Jeopardy though they exposed 6 bagm. Upon further investigation, GMA3 is the third hour of Good Morning America. What a bunch of politically correct jump. The need to know segment continues with crack product placement. You never would want to know. Boy 157M40. Here we go again. This is the same guy who thought a Pathmark grocery store was a bodega. I don't think the A even goes to the Bronx. Yeah, you can change trains, but making a thing out of going to THE Bronx while you're sitting on the A train, that's not a thing. De Blasio ruined New York. If Andy is not careful, has gonna doing too many of these little cutesy wannabe viral moments and revealed that HESNO New Yorker and another thing get a new scarf. This guy looks like he just arrived from Palo Alto 2 hours ago and wants to see what that Bronx is all about. Stop advertising how much you don't get it. Stick to the issues. What are your issues anyway? Way to HOG 2 seats and mansplain. I hate that train. It's like damn couldn't we make at least one stop? I've also gotten on it by mistake, forgetting that the wise MTA folks are down with skipping 65 blocks. P.S. They all spent way too much time in the gym. Beware public servants who spend too much time taking care of themselves. Vanity Txpo 6 was budgie. WOW Sheldon is being such a jerk. If I got a request from his office and I were a bureaucrat, right into the circular file that's code for trash. CAN Ray hearings Coffee 47 Mulch 8. Someone has to tell Sheldon has a senator that hell catch more flies with honey throwing around. That attitude is really annoying. Directive any inquiry from Sheldon's office below ITOFF and just send him back a FBI hat with a thanks for your concern note. Txtcomvich 2F. Did someone actually vote for this guy? Txtcover 6P8. In defense of Sheldon, I too have had it with this Ray fellow. Seems willing, even eager to politicize the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Someone said it should be renamed the Democrat Protection Agency. That kind of has a ring to it. THEMENAND Women OFTHEDPA. Txtpo 1P6 Reason. This is Mike Lee, Republican of Utah and has a true statesman. The deep state has figured out how to beat these hearings. Justice him like hell and get out well times UP. As they say, the FBI must reform. Txtpo 7 Ray 67Y. Ashley Babbitt. The FBI director just said darn tootin' was he briefed by Scooby Doo. What the hell? ONE guess WHY aren't they discussing Ashley Babbitt during a hearing about January 6th? Remember her? An armed woman shot to death by law enforcement. ONE guess Knizigzer. Hey Chris Ray, lay off the people in mom's basement. Also, why does he keep saying guy? So the Horns GUI is still in jail in solitary confinement at LETHIMGO. There are accused murderers in NYC who are out on bail. This guy howled at the moon a bit. YES trespassed and get him for that. BUT enough already. FBI. Doing political dirty work. OF Dems Txtpoki 9 VP. I never noticed before, but damn, these guys both have great teeth. Txtpo forged me a UI. Which of these presidents gave the job everything he had going, all OUT and ALLIN for America, while the other just liked to look cool? Which one? Txtpo 0 Age. Former CIA Director John Brennan today declared himself embarrassed to be a white man, and the only one who should be embarrassed is Obama for giving a clearly deranged person the job of CIA Director. Bulletin. Back in the day he had to wear a shirt at the pool. I was a little big in the middle. Since then I did the slim fast diet, which basically didn't work. Being that night, finally I just cut the carbs and the booze and candy. 0 Heaven. Answer: white female. Brian Stelter likes to play the victim, but the ugly and false things has said and written in books about Team Trump has no victim, has abused the former first family. Whatever happened that biker dude after Joe Biden moved in on his woman? My favorite scientist, he landed a probe on an asteroid going like 1,000,000 miles an hour, but all anyone cared about was his shirt with the girls on it. 26 times 10 to the power of 5 pixel 4. I thought our norms were supposed to be restored when Trump left the White House. None of this crap feels normal, especially having Leonid Brezhnev as our president with a Kremlin minder to boot. Free, easy and funny podcast available at Txtpoda 15. 8 special guests: Nigel Farage of UK Brexit fame and Mark Simonini, the radio legend. Does anyone remember the liberal media freaking out when the troops broke up the DC riots over the summer? They wanted to impeach Trump over that too. Now there's shock that the troops weren't thrown into the January 6th riot as soon as the chief snapped his fingers. Their fault. 5 Mryu 400. 59B. This general is one skilled political bureaucrat. Wow, if only they listened to me bit, but at the same time, he drops the "it's above my pay grade" routine. Take the initiative next time, Walker. Scott vote Woomy. So Joe Mr. Civility Biden called the people of Mississippi and Texas Neanderthals. What childish name calling Joe? You promised to be nice during the campaign. Remember another big fat lie, like when you said you got shot at in combat and finished at the top of law school. NOW. MYTOP 3 PETP 1 Joe Biden 2 Jill Biden 3 Kamala Harris 4 AOC 5 Anything Vegan. Cover UP the cause of death of Officer Brian Sicknick of the Capitol Police 2 months later. Even the FBI director doesn't know how this man died. The media pushed the false story that he was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher. Why do they lie about this hero? Godlards. I hereby demand an apology from Chris Harrison for making me feel uncomfortable during this groveling, self-flagellating, debasing moment as just a game show host who expressed momentary sympathy for a young woman who was being cancelled. This is Magnus Posts 2. Strahan upset up about racism on The Bachelor. Did he ever notice 4 years that all the contestants were white? Did he object to that? Did he make the case for diversity? Then looks like has only doing it for the first time when HES in the running to replace the host. Spoke to Meso 4. Rachel has been complaining a lot that she wasn't heard during the interview. That is not true. She interjected with her observations, feelings, emotions, skepticism with Chris, yet Chris has to apologize to HER. They call it Bachelor Nation. Turns out the nation was China. Pop 2K9. This good old boy made a big mistake and should be punished, trespassing and sitting at Nancy Pelosi's desk, but HES still in jail. What the hell is this Russia? Let Richard Barnett Geo. This fellow calls himself a RAT anyway. We know about the violent criminals who are LETGO without paying ANY bail. Look ITUP or ask one of the guys down at the docks. This first thing Blasio did was advertise how much weed you could legally carry around the city, and NOTGET arrested so much left-wing fake news out there about the people still in jail for January 6th. John Sullivan, your friendly neighborhood extremist who called for violence against the president and just happened to be there when Ashley Babbitt was killed, is OFJLOUTON. Bail wasn't there for 5 minutes. Something is rotten about all this. Spoke 5-1 leader. Tonight Tara Ricci accused Joe Biden of sexual assault, and like Christine Blasey Ford, she has evidence that makes her case far more credible thanks to Riadi Alexandra Godwasitwachkin. Trouble 44N908K. I actually like Queen Elizabeth a lot. She's put up with all kinds of jerks over the years yet still gets the job done. This Meghan Markle character is nothing but drama and clothes and Netflix. PS no one ever saw a single episode of Suits. Spot 7 PS 9Z2AWD. Whenever I see Karl Rove trending, I think about the time I almost got my ass shot off in Iraq. That war was the dumbest, biggest mistake in world history, and Rove 8 Andy Bush made it happen. Trump totally has Karl's numbered. 88. Bulletin THE United States military has never had a transgender or non-binary general officer that we know of. I hereby demand the Pentagon suspend all weapons acquisition strategy and tactics development, our planning and training until this injustice is fixed. Meghan Markle speaking her truth all the time. Maybe try to shut UP and start listening like that reverend who married her. He seemed to know what's what. Remember how mean she was to her dad, so she ruined one family, now she's busy ruining a second one. Voyage toots. Calling Bishop Michael Curry, you need to start talking some common sense into Meghan, who clearly has lost HERWAY. Bishop Curry was great at that wedding, he really gets it. Maybe he can help save TWO families. Cost them 14 any. The Queen can be dainty, but at the same time she's an old back leaks and serves the empire well. Meanwhile the selfish, silly and shallow Meghan throws another tantrum. Reports say she berated staff in the palace and made them stand on their heads. Meghan be nice. These challenge coins are getting to be too much. Here's the secret: no one in the military bothers with these things anymore. By the way, check out the one in the middle. The GSA has a challenge coin. The General Services Administration. Gimme a break. Sports P5SN1H. Swalwell trying to change the subject from Fang Fang with a frivolous lawsuit. Mutu. As Bachelor cast off Chris Harrison undergoes racial sensitivity indoctrination. Here's a brain twister for his woke coach Michael Edison. The Azalea Trail Maids of Mobile, Alabama were personally invited by Barack Obama to his 2009 inauguration. Cancel or Council Obama. 4Y8 Cali. WOW. Joe Biden really has EGG on his face. One of the up-and-comers at the office just made a big deal about buying lunch for the team. Lunch consisted of O&E Dinky Domino's Pizza, Domino's Brownie, and curly fries from Arby's. Now has looking for everyone to thank him for his generosity. Not impressed. I just saw a big chunk of the Meghan Oprah interview. Harry drops by to here's the deal, it's all fake. The Duchess is making it all up as she goes along, hasn't a clue what her beef is, just wants the drama to continue. Bottom line, boring. Box 7x0li. Charlatan Heston off to another day in court in Planet of the Apes. Dr. Zaya would not stop busting his chops simply because Taylor knew how to speak boy in the accent. In this scene, Charlatan says goodbye to Zaya with a kiss on the lips. She and Cornelius were the only apes who were nice to Taylor. Boy, it's 4 gate C. Savannah, I love it. Pop 8A0 times 10 to the power of 1. Pop 3 aisles 3. Zubi Music. Britt Martinez, Real Daily Wire. Can't wait to do it again. Such incredible energy. Thanks for being you. Terralarosa, always same to you. See Philin Content. With the COVID restrictions starting to ease across the UK, we are delighted to welcome golfers back to play on our iconic links in Aberdeenshire, Trump, Scotland. Go to Ecoch2. Just listed in Palm Beach, FL 1125 South Ocean Boulevard, 187 UK. Gas prices are going through the roof, thanks Joe Biden. An absolute disgrace. 639 U5. Well said. So let me get this straight, HES not denying IT anymore. We want diversity except for when it allows certain people to excel, then we want them suppressed to create equality at the bottom. These girls are hurt by transgender competition since 2017. 2 males who identify as female have taken 15 women's state championship titles in Connecticut alone. You can be pro-trans rights without destroying women's sports. It's not that hard. Spot 33 Niche 4. My thoughts on POTUS 45-second speech last night at PAC. Check it out and your thoughts. Spot Winchums here.
Guys, little recap of the speech we just saw. I thought it was absolutely amazing. You want to know why Donald Trump is and will continue to be the leader of the Republican Party? It's actually really simple. It's what got him to be the leader there in the first place. In his speech, he spent more time bashing Joe Biden's disastrous policies, the Democrats' disastrous attempts at pushing through their woke agenda, than literally all of the other Republicans in government combined have over the last few weeks. Donald Trump hit schools and getting them opened. Our kids' educations are too important to squander because the teachers' union has a stranglehold on Joe Biden and the radical left. He talked about trans women in sports, saying, listen guys, if you have a biological advantage by having been born a man, you shouldn't be competing in women's sports. Do what you want, identify how you want, but once you start taking scholarships away from incredible women athletes, you've lost me, and I think you've lost most of rational America. I think there are still plenty of rational Americans out there. But Donald Trump went through the disasters, the starting of new bomb strikes in the Middle East. He went through the successes that he had that the media would never tout, rolling out the vaccine, being the person who put into motion all of those successes. The media say, vaccines approved last week. They say Joe Biden got a vaccine done. This has been going on for 9 months. Joe Biden did literally nothing as it relates to those things. He inherited the success of Operation Warp Speed that Donald Trump put through. Donald Trump is a fighter. He shows that on a world stage. He showed the Republican Party how to do it, and he did it yet again. Donald Trump is the leader of the Republican Party because he is fighting for the people. He is fighting for the forgotten men and women who've been left behind by the Washington, D.C. elites. And more importantly, he's also willing to call out Republicans who are in that same vicious cycle of Washington, D.C. failure. He'll call them out and go after them because he calls balls and strikes. but we saw a 90-minute speech that spent more time focusing on the disasters of the Biden administration, of the future failures of the policies that are putting Americans out of work, that are putting America last, that are putting China and others first. And he did it more effectively than anyone else combined. That's why he's your president. That's why he's your leader. And that's why he is the future of the Republican Party, whether the DC establishment likes it or not. Hope you liked the speech as much as I did.
So to be clear, he confessed, so it's all good now. Help me out here, folks. Am I missing something? Actually, John, I have my CPR card, was a certified lifeguard in HS, so I think I have significantly more medical credentials than you and Mr. Gates. Feels more like the FBI is being run by Juicy Smollett rather than actual law enforcement professionals. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Stofen or 3 Dolwu. My thoughts and some highlights from POTUS 45-second speech. Check it out. Code 3P0. They don't call him Beijing Biden for nothing. Kim Milfoil and I discussed Joe Biden caving to the Chinese Communist Party this weekend at CAC 2021. Wait 6F. Andy Lassner, congratulations, that's not easy and is an incredible accomplishment. I think it's safe to say if he won't say that he wants it, that he likely doesn't deserve it. He's right, but he is also about 10 months late. What changed? Here we go again. It only took 30-something days for Joe Biden to start bombing the Middle East. My thoughts below.
Here we go again, folks. Here we go again. It only took approximately 35 days for us to start dropping bombs in Syria yet again. I'm actually surprised it took that long. Everyone in the media said, no, we'll never do that. Joe Biden wouldn't get us back into the wars that Donald Trump spent so much time pulling us out. But 35 days later, we're dropping bombs in the Middle East. 5 peace deals by Donald Trump, almost ignored. We're back to the old ways. I guess we had to keep the military-industrial complex satisfied. I guess we had to keep that machine rolling. I mean, there is $2 billion, I think, for Raytheon in this stimulus package. I'm not sure what that does for COVID relief, which is what it's supposed to be for, but there's $2 billion for Raytheon. So I guess if we send the missiles today, we can replenish their coffers by giving them $2 billion on top of all of this tomorrow, and that's how the system works. That's how these bureaucrats have mortgaged you and your children's futures to the hilt. I'm actually surprised it took that long. Those guys, the military-industrial complex, they run Washington, D.C. It's comprised of all the people who were once in Congress or the Senate or everywhere else, and then they sit on a board, or their best friend sits on a board, or they go work at some place where everyone else works on those boards, so they pressure our government to do it. For what? For what? What did the wars get us? What did decades of wars get us other than racking up $1 trillion of bills and making those same military-industrial complex guys rich? Again, I'm surprised Joe Biden waited a whole 35-something days. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner than that. Maybe he did it simply so he could say, no, we didn't start a new conflict in the Middle East in the first month. You know, the media, if it wasn't in the first month, they can give him a pass and say, no, it was well into his presidency when he started a new conflict. Think of how insane this stuff is, guys. After years getting out, after having the American public be vehemently against the endless wars, after Donald Trump fought all of those same bureaucrat clowns because he knew the American public didn't want to send our kids to the never-ending wars. In 35 days, we're back in them. Let's go. Think of how stupid it is, guys. Think of how insane that is. Toss of a coin. Let's get back in war. What difference does it make? We'll spend a couple $1 trillion for nothing. But will satisfy the Washington, D.C. bureaucrats who want to make sure they keep getting rich. Wonderful concept. Sort of what brought you Trump in the first place, isn't it?
The latest COVID relief package seems to be much less about relief than it is about filling a Democrat wish list. How many of these things do you think actually lend meaningful relief? Watch below. Those photos. True story.
Quoted in Politico as saying this, and it really struck me, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show today. You said, the way that we're doing it right now is catastrophic and it's a recipe for disaster. Our party should be concerned. If we go off the rails, it's going to be bad for us. You went on to say Biden is going to be dealing with a minority in Congress if he continues down some of these paths. Which paths do you think are the wrong paths that you see the Biden administration going down now on immigration?
Well, my concern in the recent weeks in my district, migrants who made it across the border, who even passed the line of MPPs, who are 5,000 folks that have been waiting for 2 years across the border, made it across the Rio Grande Valley, were processed and released. If that is the message that we send to Central America and around the world, I can assure you it won't be long before we have tens of thousands of people showing up to our border, and it'll be catastrophic for our party, for our country, for my region, for my district. In the middle of a pandemic in an area where we've lost over 3,000 people in my small congressional district. So I think we need to have a better plan in place. I think asylum seekers should be able to ask for asylum and be processed in their home country or a neighboring country. And we shouldn't have a policy in place that impulses people to make this 2,000-mile trek where cartels and human traffickers are enriching themselves.
With everything that is coming to light, when will Crown Publishing be cancelling Andre Cuomo's contract? Page 9. This one takes the cake, folks. Absolute delusion. My thoughts on Lady Gaga, the FBI, and missing dogs. You can't make this crap up. Page 01 fold. How it started, how it's going. Cuomo edition. CC Malai John Fest. 7 Xol. They don't call him Beijing Biden for nothing. Joe is really living up to his reputation here. My thoughts alongside the lovely Kim Milfoil. 6F. Another incredible breakthrough with the COVID-19 vaccines. Thanks Donald Trump for all of the efforts that you put into making this happen. My thoughts. Count Toy 0L1. WAPO uses debunked reporting to issue a false prophecy fact check. Pooch 9S5. Guys, this is just too funny not to share. Just amazing. Watch. 09 Sigan. The Biden presidency is unmitigated and it's not even through month 2. Watch my thoughts on Fox and Friends this morning. 3/6. The Biden presidency is an unmitigated disaster and it's not even through month 2. Watch my thoughts on Fox and Friends this morning. 3/6. Unmitigated disaster. California mass casualty crash involved smugglers, illegal immigrants. Border Patrol source says Fox News. Colleagues. My thoughts on the left trying to cancel Dr. Seuss. Is there anything they won't destroy? And quote Obama about the topic. Please watch it and let me know your thoughts. Now do the Antifa riots. Just never gets old. 09 Sigan. She makes a very solid point. Buckle up, folks. Gas prices are going to go through the roof. Don't say I didn't warn you. Watch. Countable Wanoon 62. So shocked to hear this. Exclusive. PolitiFact founder was journalist in residence at Chinese Communist influence group. Keep 5 team. Open OUR schools. NOW. Every child has the right to a basic education. Putting special interests and teachers unions ahead of America's kids is unacceptable. Help my friend and legal rockster Jabin to open up out schools. Sign THE petition. Counts of 0V. This sort of manipulation and interference only shows how much weight these monopolies put on the scale of freedom. It's never going to end until we all band together to stop it. And if you notice, the censorship seems to only really go one way. Has Lincoln Project released their employees and contractors from their NDAS without qualification or exception? If not, why not? Follow the science, my ass. You won't believe the crap the Biden admin is pulling on the southern border. If you like hypocrisy, it's a must-watch. Townsville Fordser. Lock them UP. The NRA has a message for New York and why they and so many other business and people are fleeing to Texas. Burgess owns 5 seconds. You mean to tell me that a pro and pro-amnesty Reno who is hated by Republican voters is supporting another pro and pro-amnesty Reno who is also hated by Republican voters? Im Shop Liz Cheney and Paul Ryan are a match made in swamp heaven. Scotch Fios. The other 13 are morons. Doesn't change the fact they are cages, but will totally change how journalists report on it so long as a Democrat is in power. Who wants to bet that Democrats are now going to become really pro signature verification magically? You're about to see the hypocrisy at levels you've never imagined and few could even comprehend. Wait for it. Sweet. Shocking. 100 COVID-positive illegal immigrants released into the country by Biden admin. Follow THE Science Rights Council Forbes. Can you imagine? There's people in America that think Joe Biden is in charge and not even sure has in charge of his own faculties, let alone America. Goals are 7 Actman. If child migrant shelters, aka cages housing children, can be open to 100 SOCA and your kid's school. HR 1 is nothing more than a power grab by the swamp Democrats. They want to take away every ounce of election integrity. This is going to destroy the confidence that everyday Americans have in our voting processes. Calling HR 1 the For the People Act is laughable. HR 1 would strip normal Americans of their most basic civic duty and empower Democrat elites to conduct mass manipulation of elections. To believe that some party or some other group of people up to turn American greatness into a handout is to destroy the foundation of this republic. We must protect and promote individual responsibility. Doing so will save this American dream. Go Isaac to staff.
You know, Washington, D.C., these globalists who want to indoctrinate our children, they want to remove our moral foundation from the next generation. They want to make a generation that's completely reliant on the government. But my friends, that is not the role of our government. Our government right now is trying to buy votes in their desperate scramble to have nothing but complete power. Now, the problem I have with this is that it's intellectually dishonest. You know, they're trying to think that Americans are too common, are too naive to know that in the end, we're the ones that have to foot the bill. In the end, it is the next generation, my generation, that will have to foot the bill for this debt and pay these taxes because people wanted to give away free tuition, because people wanted to try and buy votes. We believe that we are going to offer you something that is immeasurably more valuable, and that is your freedom. That is your freedom to go out and have the right to fail or to succeed. Your freedom to speak up or to sit down. We as Americans must realize that our number one guiding principle is personal responsibility. So my friends, when you hear the Democrats trying to buy your votes and acting like you are too naive to know what is going on, push back on that. Take personal responsibility for your life, because if we don't stand up, if we don't start fighting for our country, then who will?
Senate Dems are calling Republican amendments to the COVID relief bill lethal. They are actually going to protect the interests of hardworking Americans. 15 minimum wage hike will not help people recover from the horrific effects of COVID restrictions on their businesses. I was on Fox and Friends first this morning to discuss how Democrats blame Trump for the problems they create. Biden created this immigration crisis and now has blaming Trump for not preemptively fixing it. Spock 45 MILF.
Do you believe that right now there's a crisis at the border?
I think that the answer is no. I think there is a challenge at the border. To put it succinctly, the prior administration dismantled our nation's immigration system. Quite frankly, the entire system was gutted.
The Homeland Security Chief saying there's no crisis at our southern border, and he's blaming the former president for the surge of migrants who were promised amnesty by the current president.
Joining us live to respond with that, North Carolina Congressman Madison Cawthorn. Madison, good morning.
Good morning, Ashley. I hope you're doing well.
I am. Thanks so much. So I want to get to this real quick. First off, I'm going to pull this full screen up. The southwest border arrest just in October of last year, just in October, almost 72,000 border arrests. That's in 1 month. And Mayorkas is saying there's no crisis. Your reaction, Madison?
Well, Secretary Alejandro, he said multiple times that the border infrastructure and the facilities needed to be able to house these migrants, illegal immigrants coming into our country doesn't exist, and that's Trump's fault. Well, the reason it didn't exist is because we were stopping them at the border. We were stopping the hemorrhaging, and then we were going to deal with the problems here in America. And for this Secretary Alejandro, to be saying that this is all Donald Trump's fault it's the classic Democrat playbook. The only way that they can actually sound as if they have an argument is if they blame Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, how much longer can they use this blame Trump strategy without acknowledging the executive actions are really what is causing this problem that we've seen recently?
Well, you know what? I genuinely believe that I was here for the inauguration on January 20th of Joe Biden. And when we were here, I looked around and realized that for the very first time in inauguration history, there were more supporters of the president at our southern border than there were actually in attendance for the inauguration. It was a sad display.
That is a fascinating tidbit there, Congressman. Meantime,
apparently Dr. Seuss books are now offensive and Democrats are trying to cancel publication of any more of his books. This has to be a joke. Don't worry folks, public safety is on the back burner while we give illegal immigrants 1,400 checks. The Harris-Biden administration probably. It's very rare nowadays that corporations don't cower and bow to the woke mob. We must support those who stand against cancel culture. H.R. 1 is a dumpster fire. It would take the 2020 election system with all of its legal violations and Democrat manipulation and codify it into a law. If this bill passes, then American democracy crumbles. Saudi. Republicans are unified against the greatest threat facing our nation, radical socialism packaged as democratic liberalism. We will win this fight. It's called 4C35XR. H.R. 1 federalizes the left's successful coup of our election system. This act is not for the people, it's for the powerful.
This week, Democrats are pushing partisan legislation that would change how we conduct elections and how we can speak.
It's Nancy Pelosi's #1 priority. In fact, the legislation is called H.R. 1. Now here's what it would do. First,
H.R. 1 sends public dollars to fund political campaigns.
Not to build roads or bridges, but to add 600% to every small dollar donated by Americans. So let's say Mary from Michigan donates $200 to a preferred candidate. Well, now you have just chipped in another $1,200. Second, H.R. 1 would legalize voting for convicted felons all over the country, even if they were convicted of election fraud. Does that make sense to you? Not only is this dangerous, it's unconstitutional. Now third, H.R. 1 would weaken the security of our elections and make it harder to protect against voter fraud. Here's how. It would automatically register voters from DMV databases. Voting is a right, not a mandate. In most cases, this legislation would actually prevent officials from removing ineligible voters from the rolls and would make it much more difficult to verify the accuracy of voter information. So future voters might be underage, dead, or illegal immigrants, or maybe even registered 1, 2, or 3 times. Democrats just don't care. Democrats call H.R. 1 the For the People Act, but it really is a For the Politicians Act. It's not designed to protect your vote. It's designed to put a thumb on the scale of every election in America and keep the swamp swampy.
Make no mistake, H.R. 1 isn't meant to secure our elections. This bill is nothing short of an abusive power grab by Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the swamp. Appointing Daszak to this WHO panel is like appointing a coyote to oversee an investigation into a disappearing chicken population. Expo 6 of 70th region. H.R. 1 includes a provision that would eliminate voter ID requirements at election stations. The Democrats want the polling stations as open as our southern border. H.R. 1 is not being pushed to help ordinary citizens. Its goal is to help elitist swamp politicians ensure that they will be elected time and time again. My spine is part titanium in. There is nothing bipartisan about H.R. 1. This is not about solutions, finding common ground, or increasing election integrity. This is about power, but isn't it always with the left? Ever since Dr. Seuss was cancelled, his books have been selling like crazy. This just goes to show that the left's toxic cancel culture will always come back to bite them. Last night, under cover of darkness from behind locked doors and armed guards, Democrat elites schemed to change the fabric of American democracy forever. Don't be fooled. Democrats have placed power over people, and H.R. 1 is their first attempt at solidifying their power grab. AOC'll join you on your next photo shoot at these overflow facilities. Perhaps we can ask Joe together why he built them, unless you're too tired after a long day of defunding our police, dismantling our electoral system, and crushing small businesses. It's too late to fight. America needs more leaders who will choose to communicate with those who disagree with them. Canceling opposing views or people isn't the answer to political disagreement. It's to 2S.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network. Michael Malice here, and let that be your welcome for the next hour. We are very, very fortunate to have with us my current nemesis, Madison Cawthorn, newly elected congressman from North Carolina. Thank you for taking the time. I know you've been very busy in Washington, and we're going to talk a little bit about mental health and fitness and all these other kind of things that I think you're in a position to speak on. How are you doing? How are you doing today? Well, I'd be better if you, call me out and say that I can't do squats and miss it leg day. But anyways, we can look past that. I'm happy to beat you in that arm wrestling competition. We'll all get back together. Let me tell you, I can barely do squats myself. Okay, my squat is like 185, which is absolutely pathetic. I mean, I gotta tell you, it does way more than me. And also, like, it was just really cool to hear my name mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, I was just listening, actually listening to your talk. Like, wow, this guy's so funny. And all of a sudden, he's like, also, Madison Cawthorn is pathetic. I was like, oh, well, I didn't say that. I just implied it. So let's get into this because people got all heated, and I was very, very surprised that they got heated. Can you explain to people what the expression skipping leg day means? Yeah, so it's mainly guys who work out their upper body. They do, chest. They do basically they'll do their chest with bench press. They'll do curls all the time, and they're just focused on the glory muscles. They're not actually strong. And so when you call me out on that, I saw everybody just lose their minds about it. And obviously when I heard my wife was saying, oh, well, I can squat more than he can. She's a big CrossFit star. And then I was like, no, honey, the big problem in this world today is that people can't take a joke. Yeah. And that's why we're starting to see some of our First Amendment protections and kind of culture of that First Amendment kind of going away. There's no freedom of expression. Yeah, I never even thought for a second that you would take it seriously. And a lot of people started freaking out and screaming, the same kind of people who are against cancel culture. My funniest one was when people are yelling at me because I was taking a cheap shot at a veteran who lost his ability to walk in overseas. Apparently you're in Vietnam. Like just outside of Blumenthal. I actually served in both World War II and Vietnam. I just have a great skincare routine. Being 25 years old and being in a wheelchair, most people just instantly associate that with the military. So people come all the time and say, hey man, you served, and then I got to recount that. Oh, I actually never got served. They won't let me fight in a wheelchair, although I'm very deadly downhill. One of the things I think it's important to talk about, is, especially nowadays with people dealing with mental health issues, whenever someone goes through a traumatic experience, which you obviously have, there's two things that go through their mind. One is, okay, what does this mean? But also the sense of panic and loss of control. And once they've heard someone else go through it, it's a lot easier. Like the first time you break up with a girl, right? You think, oh my God, no one understands how I feel. Everybody understands, but you just think you're the first person. But when something as rare as losing the ability to walk, that is something that's going to be obviously much more profoundly disturbing. Can you talk us through the day of that accident? Yeah, so it was on my spring break. I was a senior in high school at full ROTC scholarship to in-state. I had some conflicting news from the Naval Academy. I was having my congressman sort that out for me. And so I knew I was going to the military. I didn't know which school I was going to at the time. My best friend and I, we went on a ride, and we knew that, hey, once we go to college, we're pretty much going to go separate ways, and we probably won't ever get to be together like this again. So let's go down to Florida. So we went down, had an awesome time. But there was much fun as two Christian guys can have in Florida. And then when we were driving back, we stopped for a big lunch. Then walked back into the same restaurant, ordered the exact same meal again because we were so hungry. The wait staff thought they were living through just a repeat of the day. And then we get in the car, we're driving, big meal, sunshine, middle of the afternoon. I'm like, hey, I'm going to take a nap right quick. I'll take over in 10 minutes. He's like, yeah, absolutely. So let me seat back. And then, everything now was recounted to me from other people because I don't have any memories of this particular instance. Just a few little flashbacks. But then everybody fell asleep at the wheel. We're probably going 3-4 miles an hour over. We ran right headlong into a concrete barricade. And then I had no idea that that was, stepping in that car was the last time I ever took. And then I just remember, I got a brief memory of, one of the doctors holding my hand or, rolling into the ICU. And then, I spent several months in ICU down in Florida. And then I spent, a little over 9 months after that in Atlanta at a rehab facility, just learning how to live in a wheelchair. And man, when I pulled up, there's literally a statue of a guy in a wheelchair, trying to throw a spear or something. And I said, whoa, why am I here? This is where people are going to be in wheelchairs. I'll be good, in just a little while, nothing bad can ever happen to me. But then, you know what? I started going through a very difficult time. Once I realized that I wasn't going to heal just naturally away, and I got in a really dark place. And I was let out of the rehab facility. But let's slow down because I think this is such a process that I really want to kind of spell it out for people because this is the kind of thing where every day is a new challenge, especially having to relearn everything. Your friend, was he okay? Yeah, he was I think maybe a minor concussion, something wrong with his hand, but he survived. Do you still talk to him? Yeah, he's about to be in my wedding. Does he have, how did he handle that guilt? Because that's a big one. Man, I gotta say, Brad does mental demons. I have nothing but respect for him. He's starting a Vitabev company. He's going really well. He's doing little cans, great. But, he definitely has mental demons. So he moved up to California, I think in part to get away just from the constant reminders of me. And, we're still real close. We obviously had a big falling out, and there's some conflicting issues of what actually happened at the accident. So who knows? I don't have the answers to those questions. But is this the kind of thing where, I'm sure at different points when you're laying in bed, you have a lot of spare time, the brain starts going over time. Were you kicking yourself, why did I take that nap? Why did we do this? Going over and trying to do a time machine thing? Oh man, it was just nonstop. The biggest problem was I don't have any memories. And so, I'll ask somebody, they'll share a little snippet of information that is completely meaningless to them, but then it'll shed new light on me. Wow, maybe I was taking a nap because my shoes were tied too tight, or who knows. But you play it over and over and over and over in your head. And that leads you to a dark place, it really does. What I would be worried about is seeing the look on my parents' face when they see their baby boy in the bed, fit, he's about to join the military, and now, he's not in the best of shape, to put it mildly. Were you worried about that? What was the look like on mom's face? So you know what? My family did a great job of, my brother dropped everything. Him and my dad were from the same company. Edward Jones really kind to them and said, hey, you know what? You guys take the time to meet. One of the best companies in the world to work for is my dad. My brother came down when I was there. But I was throughout a lot of the time in the ICU where I don't have my memories from. So I don't remember those initial faces, but I'll tell you what really stuck with me is because I was about 210, 215 pounds when the accident occurred. When I got to the rehab facility in Atlanta, I had lost 85 pounds. Oh my God. In just a couple months. How tall are you? I'm 6'1", 6'2". So 6'2", 135? Yeah, I was 140s. That's insane. And so then I rolled from there in front of a mirror. I had not seen myself this entire time. And I mean, my face was sunken in. It looked like a skull. And that's when that was the first time I really broke down. I was like, wow, this is way more serious than I thought. There's actually a little bit of history here that you're probably not privy to. Ronald Reagan, he had his first autobiography, which was published in 1966, was called Where's the Rest of Me? Because he played in a movie, and in the movie it's a veteran who loses his legs, and they did the makeup so well, like he pulls back the cover, and they weren't there, and he screams out, genuinely disturbed, like, where's the rest of me? And that was the title of his first autobiography, so you have something in common with the Gipper there. Because just seeing yourself, you know what you look like, and who that person is in the mirror is not your mental image of yourself, and that's got to be almost demonic. It's like a movie. Yeah, it was demonic, and you know what? It wasn't really until I had this recreational therapist come in, who does the sports therapy, it's racing on a track, or it's wheelchair basketball, getting the kayak. And he came in, and then this guy just told it like it was. And I was like, yeah, no, I really like hunting, I like running, I like all these things. Okay, so every single one of those things you're not going to be able to do. We're going to have to walk through how you do this. I mean, he just laid it out harshly. And it was at that point I realized that, well, I'm probably not going to walk again. And man, I went downhill very hard. Well, what did that entail? How did you, I mean, the thing is, you're not being depressed for no reason. You know, it's not a breakup, it's not I got fired, this is my life from now on. And I'm sure there's a part of you, because you're a fighter, who thinks, I'm going to be that guy who all the doctors said you're never going to walk again, and I'm going to show them, you don't know what you're talking about, you haven't met someone like me. So how does that voice get knocked out of your head? So that voice did not get knocked out of my head until, I mean, it still kind of speaks a little bit, until I was out of the hospital. I had been in North Carolina, my home, I was living with my parents for several months. And I was bedbound a lot, and I probably sit up about 3 or 4 hours at a time. Wow. And then my dad came into the room, and he gave some pretty harsh advice. It was basically, just to summarize it, basically, either decide to live your life in spite of your wheelchair and say move forward, or don't do it, because this is, and then he was crying his eyes out the time, and he's like, because you're not living a life that's worth living. And then he left. And I mean, I had the means to do to end it, or I had the means to get up from my wheelchair and go out and eat dinner. I mean, I stayed in there for a solid amount of time. I actually made a T-graph of pros and cons of being alive. And eventually being alive went out, I got my wheelchair went out, and then that's when I defeated that voice. I'm not going to be the guy who feeds all these doctor's ideas. I'm going to be the guy who inspires people like. If you went back in time and sat down to yourself at that moment, because there's going to be people who hear this, or people who have a friend who hears this, I mean, this really is an opportunity to kind of speak to them. What would you tell that kid, who's making that decision? Because these are two bad choices. It's not like you have, do I want to be extremely rich or do I want to be extremely famous? Like, this is going to suck or this is going to suck. Those are the worst choices to make. Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no easy decision here. And I think that this is one thing that has to be completely voluntary. If you do it based on somebody else's word, you're not going to make it. You're just going to get more and more depressed. And so my advice for them would be, just realize that regardless of your physical stature, you can make a difference. We live in a great country with the American Disability Act. But the thing that won out the little T-graph for me is I still have the ability to make a difference. And yeah, I'm pretty daggone religious. And so I'm like, well, God put me here. I didn't die. So I might as well, I probably still have a mission to do. When you see other people who are paraplegics, like when you're campaigning or just when you're out and about, do you guys have this kind of camaraderie, like you spot each other and you're like, this guy knows what I'm going through, and there's this kind of bond? Yeah, so I found the differences in, the disabled community is so diverse, and you can't really put people on a box on this, but I found that people who are normally born with a disability, they normally don't react extraordinarily well to, saying, oh, hey man, we're both in wheelchairs, what's up? And, they're normally like, that's not right, they kind of roll off them. But people I think who've kind of gotten to live their life, 7, 10, 20 years with me, they realize, hey man, this is a common bond that we both have. And so, I always roll up to them, kind of elbow them, hey, man, we're going to have to race later, and everybody will laugh. But the biggest thing I like to do, especially for guys that are younger, significantly younger, 10 years or so, I will pray for them. I'll literally grab them and say, hey, you are destined to do great things. Everywhere your wheel rolls is your territory, and make the best difference you can. Yeah, it's easy for me to say this as someone who's not a paraplegic, to think that just because someone's sitting down doesn't mean that they can't accomplish great things. But at the same time, when you lose so many things that you took for granted, it's hard to have that perspective. I'm sure there's all sorts of things where you have a list of all your dreams, cross this off, cross this off, cross this off, cross this off, and that's got to be disheartening. And it's the truth. This isn't some emotional depression. These are real things that what are some of the things that you miss the most? You know what? Just go to the bathroom. I mean, there's so much that goes into me being able to use the bathroom. I'm not going to go into all the details. Of course. But man, it is that's something that's a constant reminder every single day. And also, when I wake up, I normally don't remember I'm in a wheelchair. And so I will normally, when I wake up, go to roll over and my leg doesn't move. And then I kind of have to relive that whole experience for 10, 15 seconds. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? And so it's really tough. And the most difficult things is, you need help with a lot of shit. I mean, I've got, if there's a small ledge, I gotta have my buddies who can lift me up on. My mom's carrying a big tray of sweet tea and biscuits from the south. It's heavy. I can't hop up with the rabbits. I'll probably drop it off my lap. So it's a life of probably 10,000 inconveniences a day. I have a friend who's very tall, and he's very sick of hearing how tall are you, were your parents tall, do you play basketball, when did you become 6 foot, right? So I'm sure when people meet you, they don't know how to react, and they're going to do some things they're trying their best, but they don't know what to do. Can you give people advice, like if you meet someone in a wheelchair, how should you approach them respectfully without making it awkward? So if you see someone really, visibly struggling to get up a hill, I don't mind if someone comes and says, hey, can I give you a hand? Because I might be about to flip over, and that's just obviously dangerous. But normally I don't offer help unless they're kind of looking for it. I hold the door open for them, absolutely. But the biggest thing to help these people is, if you're going through a crowd, maybe reach forward and tap the guy ahead of you, just to make sure they make a little hole. And then probably the biggest thing that I found that fixed this for me, people always come up and, you're in a wheelchair, they don't know how to act around that, they say, oh yeah, let's walk over here, and they're like, oh my gosh, she's right, everybody said walk, and it's awkward. So the thing that I found, and this is directed at people in my position, make fun of the injury first. Like, just make a quick joke about it, and people, and then it disarms the whole situation. Like, oh wait, this guy is not sensitive about it. And so and honestly, my brother and I did a joke about wheelchairs, the thing that fixed me the most. I'm telling you, my brother, just making jabs. Like what you said, this guy skips leg day. Everybody's pissed off about it. My brother's like, yeah, that's what Madison Fresh is not so bad. There's an organization which I think you should be aware of called Irreverent Warriors. And what they do is ex-military people who help each other dealing with PTSD and suicidal ideation by using dark humor and memes. Because as bad as it is being, paraplegic, having those PTSD, you can't escape that. You know what I mean? You can still have a fun time with your buddies, but when those demons come in, those guys have it really, really rough. And they're also so very tough, and they don't want to show weakness. So they hang out with each other, and they use this kind of dark humor to be like, bro, I get where you're coming from. I have it too, but like, let's not. When you're dealing with these kind of dark thoughts, when you give them validity, it kind of feeds on itself and makes it much worse. Whereas when you have a brother, like you're very fortunate to do, who can snap you out of it, you don't end up feeling sorry for yourself. Like, this sucks, but this is my situation, and I'm going to do great things with this situation. Absolutely. And a big thing I also noticed is you've got to build kind of a framework, almost small little barriers in your head. You've got to allow yourself to breathe, or else, this is the reason I think we see such high levels of suicide in ex-military, because, like you said, these guys, they're tough, they don't want to show the emotion, and all of a sudden it just creeps in, they never told anybody about it, it's like 10,000 birds at one time. So the biggest thing that I found is, if I catch, you really got to set barriers for yourself to say, if I'm spiraling, like if I'm on a glider and I'm going down, and it's like, wow, this thought is literally just, it's circular reasoning. It's like, oh, God can do anything to create a rock big enough to get it. Like, okay, so we're not going to accomplish anything here. You're going to wake up in a wheelchair and you're going to have to get over it. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, but, I gotta say, Mike, I appreciate you being willing to do a podcast with me. I know you and I are opposite ends of a lot of spectrums, but man, I think that the biggest problem we have going on in our country, I'm not talking about politics, I'm just talking about social, is that people are unwilling to have a conversation that goes past talking points. And so I think, that's one big reason why I like smoking cigars. I can invite someone I don't really agree with to smoke a cigar with me. It means you're gonna have to commit 30 seconds to that conversation. And then you're at least gonna understand where they're coming from. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I understand, but there's a guy, Peter Meyer, he's a congressman here. He voted for impeachment. But yeah, he gave me his reasons. And I was like, hey, you told me why, and now I understand where you're coming from. And I think so I appreciate this, man. Well, where this comes from in part is I had a friend named Matt. I spoke about him in a previous episode of Rogan, and he had been sexually abused as a kid, and he was scared to tell everybody, and he was scared to tell me. And I told him the truth. I go, I don't care. Like, I don't think of you as a different person. You're the same guy you were 5 minutes ago. This sucks. No one should have to deal with this. If I had a magic wand, I would change this. And then I went on Rogan to talk about it because it's really wrong that people who have been victimized like this as children do not feel comfortable talking about this as adults, and they have to hold this secret and think they're the only one. And then it's like, I don't want that pain that he had to be taking over his identity, and also to just have to be bottled in. These are awkward conversations, but if the awkward conversations don't happen, the person who is the victim is the one who's suffering the burden, and I think that's extremely disturbing. And what was even worse, after I talked about it on Rogan, like 4 more of my friends came forward and told me, like, privately. But again, like you're saying, if more people talk about these issues, they're not stigmatized. You're not going to have to feel like a weirdo because you're sitting down. Like, people know how to talk to you, how to approach you, and God forbid if someone else gets in an accident, they'll be like, okay, I know what I can look forward to. It's going to suck, but I'm not. There's some comedian I wish I knew his name who said, if it has a name, you're not the first person who has to deal with it. So, well said. Yeah, so can you tell me what are some of the little things that you had to relearn? Oh man, so I'm gonna show you my hands. I'm not really sure if it's will come out on this, but if you can see the muscle difference right here on my thumb versus this. Oh yeah. So my hand was, and there's a lot of different opinions of why this happened. Leading opinion is, when I was kind of braced down, I was just pulling so hard that I damaged the nerves. So the bottom half of my arm and most of my hand were paralyzed for a while. I still don't have all feeling there. But we're having to relearn just how to, I still can't touch this pinky with my thumb. Okay. Having to relearn how to touch all these fingers. Yeah, that's something that's so simple, but you realize, you should see my freaking signature now, man. My freaking handwriting is just abysmal. And I have to sit there and be like, this is literally the best I can do, just because my dexterity is so messed up now. And, but big thing I had to relearn how to do, and it changes everything, because I had to relearn how to redecorate my room, kind of my house, because there's things that look good when you're 6 feet in the air, that look a lot worse when you're 4 feet down. It's like, oh, I can't actually see that. Why would I put that there? And then, big thing is having to learn how to pre-plan. You can do almost anything in a wheelchair if you sit down and really strategize about it. You want to go jet skiing, we can figure that out. We gotta have the right friends, we gotta have the right equipment. We need to know where to be. And so the biggest thing I had to relearn was just planning very far ahead. And then, another thing I had to relearn was just how to communicate. So I've got a tracheotomy right through here. And so, anyway, my diaphragm collapsed and everything. So my laugh today is unrecognizable. It does not sound like my laugh, because my voice changed a significant amount because I couldn't speak for a long time. And so that's another thing. Well, let's talk. First of all, this is gonna be a silly question, but I think it speaks to like how things that people who can walk take for granted. Like, if you want ice cream for the freezer, how do you do it? Well, I would say I'm pretty daggone good at wheelchair skills. Like, I can do a wheelie nobody's business, and I can do all kinds of stuff. So, but again, I've got a freezer that's loaded with ground, so okay, that's what you do. Okay, yeah. Yep. It's all about equipment. Almost any problem can be fixed. This is where we got a lot of issues. Almost any problem can be fixed with money. Yeah. Joe Rogan has a great thing. We were talking about $15 minimum wage an hour, which I think is terrible. But it's all these things like, hey man, have you ever been sick and broke at the same time? That's a terrible place to be. And so, this is a big reason why I'm so passionate about changing the way our healthcare system works. It's just so freaking expensive, and we've got to take care of people pre-existing conditions, because my life would be much worse if I didn't have the funds to make it easy. Of course. Well, let's talk. Okay, you're a politician. Obviously, you're no stranger to being able to run your mouth, right? I'm sure that was before, but no seriousness. I mean, in a way, I think given what I do for a living, I think it might be scarier for me to not be able to talk than not to be able to get out of bed. Because if you're not able to write, I mean, how did you realize you couldn't talk? What would happen when you tried to talk? This is about how I talk. So hold on. It's like, I mean, it's just nothing. But so fortunately, I had taken 2 years of American Sign Language just as an elective, and my brother and I had done it together, and so I was able to sign to my brother a decent amount, just because my left hand wasn't able to do it. My right hand was able to do just some spelling, the ABCs. That helped the most. And then my brother created some great plans. He would get a piece of paper, and he would just have every single letter I just point and touch them. But it started working out real well. I mean, how are you guys close in age? He's 4.5 years older than me, but man, my brother could substitute my father. I mean, I was raised with 2 father figures, and my brother is the most moral, kind man I ever met. And then my dad's fantastic on top of that. So I had a lot of great male role models, which I would tell you, this is something weird I found, Michael. when I give my story, my testimony, I'm talking about it, almost every woman in the room will just, gather their eyes right quick. But men weep. Yeah. And I think it's because we realize how much of our self-identity is wrapped up in how we are physically able to do things. And it really made me start feeling for women. For the very first time, I was rolling down a back alley leaving an Irish pub one time. And there were some kind of, some shady looking guys. And never before would I be like, okay, yeah, fight me, please, great time. But now I was like, Jesus, these guys get behind me and they could kill me if they really want it. And it made me feel for a lot of women who find themselves in that situation. So that's another reason why I'm big on the Second Amendment. Because, God created men, Smith and Wesson made them equal. Well, it's not only that, it's that they could be not even going that far, but they could just be standing behind you, making fun of you and calling you out. And you're not really going to pull a gun on them there, and you're not going to fight them. They can outrun you. It's like for someone who's like kind of, like a high achiever to have to sit there and kind of bite your tongue. I think that's just, that happened, the reason I asked it, my grandfather was once in the elevator, and, he was ex-military from Russia, and these kids were like making a scene and they knocked his hat off his head, and he just had to stand there and pick it up because what's he going to do, do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I heard that story, it killed me, because it's like, and there are people who have you had to deal with like people being obnoxious to you? Oh yeah, I mean, you could be rolling by and somebody just like, oh, come on, Wheels, come on. And it's just like, did you just call me Wheels? Yeah. And then it's like, what do you say about, hey, come on, Pear Shape? Yeah, right. So you just gotta, I mean, was it hard for your brother? Like, did you see the look on his face? Like, if he's a strong dude, seeing, it's so many times we see our friends, it's like, I'd rather be happening to me than a loved one, like, I'd rather be dealing with this than seeing it, because you feel powerless to help past a certain point. Was that tough, seeing that look on his face, knowing, does he have a poker face? I'm sure he doesn't, to some extent, not with this. You've got a good poker face on stuff like this, but, I mean, every now and then, when I say you gotta allow yourself to grieve, my brother spent every single night for, over a year in the hospital with me. I mean, just imagine what's happening. Oh, no, sir, you can't sleep here. He's like, oh, okay. Walks out the van, pulls out a twin mattress, starts walking in. No, sir, you actually can't stay. And he's like, okay, well, are you gonna stop me? Because my brother. But so we had a lot of really just touching moments, and just like, I would be kind of complaining about something, and he grabbed my hand, like, with tears in his eyes, and there's nothing I can tell you, man. This is what it's gonna be. And that was when my brother was resigned to the fact, he's like, dude, you're just gonna have to get really fucking tough, because this is a hard road you have to pull. Hey guys, want to take a sec to talk about our new sponsor, Sovereignty. Now, with the new pandemic, everyone's been forced to create a routine. We all know the most important part of routine is making sure you're using your time wisely, and to do that, you have to be focused and energized, but also calm and relaxed. So that's easy to do with Sovereignty. If you go to SOVEREIGNTY.co and use code MALICE, you get 20% off and a 30-day money-back guarantee. What is it? It's a daily energy and performance supplement called Purpose that empowers and supports your mind and body to achieve new levels of productivity. It's a combination of 25 herbs and scientifically supported synergistic supplements chosen for their support of cognition, energy, and mood. All those different bottles you see at the store, they've combined a ton to give you the focus and energy of coffee, but none of those coffee jitters and anxiety. If you go to sovereignty.co and use code MALICE, you get 20% off. Let's get back to the show. What was it like campaigning, both being in a wheelchair and during COVID? So, man, you know what? I will say, COVID-19, how terrible it was, always when suffering was awful, but the one benefit it allowed me to have is, I'm completely into politics. I've never been involved. I follow issues all the time, but I just get married, and so, we're talking about having kids and all that stuff, and you saw how viciously you got attacked for saying, mask problems, like, right. Yeah, I don't want my kids to grow up in a culture where people are just going to get brutalized, so I already do something about it. So I got involved, but then there's all these seasoned politicians, or, a state senator, but, these big fancy consultants who could afford to run a million campaigns, and, we had a major experience gap. But then COVID-19 happens. No one's ever campaigned through a pandemic of living. And so it put us all on a major level playing field. And then, being able to utilize the Newtown Square of social media just blew, that blew other people out of the water. And, because I don't know about you, Mike, but to me, taking a quick story on Instagram, posting like, oh, this is what I'm going to do, that's just second nature. I mean, everybody you sit down with you are really cool looking meal. Everybody's taken a picture of that before it's happening. That's just a benefit of being in this generation. But I'll tell you, talking about the wheelchair and campaigning, it was really tough to kind of overcome people from, boomers, the baby boom generation, because being in a wheelchair then is so much different than being in a wheelchair now. I mean, my wheelchair can go, I can probably hit 13 miles an hour in this chair. It's super light, I can do wheelies and do all kinds of stuff, it's very versatile. But their wheelchair, I've really seen pictures of wheelchairs made out of wood. Oh, wow. And so, what older people think I'm capable of doing, they're just saying, oh, well, hey, man, let me get your coffee for you. You really had to overcome. This is something I think that a lot of people have to deal with in my situation, is you feel like you have to perform 6 times better than normal just to appear on par with everybody else. I got a guy on my staff who really struggles with stuff. But I know he's probably had to deal with his entire life, therefore he's used to being a high achiever. And it's made him probably one of the greatest staffers I have. And so it's stuff like that, there's benefits to things, but you really have to be a high achiever to just appear on par. So you know a little bit something about being isolated with your own thoughts, and that a lot of Americans have had to deal with that in the last year, and they're still dealing with that in many cases. And one of the reasons I didn't expect this, but I got a lot of feedback that thank you for your content, because it's helping me stay sane, because I feel like I'm talking to someone who I know. What advice would you give to people who have become, either through an accident or through these COVID lockdowns, socially isolated? How do you keep yourself sane? Well, that's a major problem with people who are alcoholics. One of their major crutches is, go get the sober setting, doesn't involve alcohol, it's classic mind alcohol. You'll do a different kind of buzz, just from the interaction. And so I think that the way to really talk about how to handle being alone in your own thoughts is, again, you have to have the framework of saying, hey, I know if I start thinking, if there's a thought, I'm going to say it out loud. But no matter what I'm doing, I could be, on a jet ski with my fiance on perfectly blue water, just flying, sun shining on us, we're laughing, having a great time. In the back of my mind, that little voice would say, but dude, imagine how much fun you'd be having if you want to go. And so that is something I do not allow myself to think. So I start thinking about that. I can't wait to have kids, but I'm not going to be able to teach my kids how to tackle. And so you gotta have that framework set up. But biggest thing is definitely, I think, believing in a higher power is a major help there, because I'm a strong Christian. I believe Christ is the way, and I believe in God. But because of that, we believe we always have the Holy Spirit with us, and so that's something that helps us up a lot. I know that there's some similar things in both Buddhism and Islam. So But I mean, just more like on a day-to-day basis. Like, is it more like you're being aware of that voice and like kind of like the dog whisperer snapping yourself out of it? Because you're very lucky. You have your faith and you have your family. A lot of people don't have that. And I myself don't know that I have a good answer for them. You would think with social media you can make connections, but it's still only to a point. It's still a picture on the screen. And I wish I had more advice for these people. Man, the biggest piece of advice I give, and I get made fun of it from all my friends all the time. Everyone's always, oh yeah, Maddie hates being alone. You can't leave Maddie alone. We're always, hey, I'm going to brush my teeth, you want to come? And it's a freaking crutch that I have built where I hate being alone, I hate being alone with my thoughts. And I'm in a position here where I've got some taxpayer-funded staff at all times, I've got lots of friends, and so I'm able to almost never be alone. It'll be hard to do my job. But you know what? A lot of people don't have that. And so I'm on the same boat as you. I don't know exactly what to say to that. That's just, that is the battle we got to fight. You know, I'm sometimes a little bit cowardly on saying, oh, I don't like what I'm thinking, I'm going to invite somebody over. But with COVID-19, how can you do that? So you're from North Carolina. Are you guys the vinegar ones, or are you guys the mustard barbecue sauce? We're the tomato base. Those Easterners don't know what to talk about. Was it hard moving to D.C.? So, you know, I actually sleep in my office. My wife and I know I keep going back and forth with my wife and fiance and all that stuff, but so we have a big ceremony coming up in April because we had to push it off for just COVID and stuff like that. But you know, we want to get married before I had to do all this stuff. But she can get her security clearance and all, everything. And so we came up here and it's like, okay, well, we'll have our home back in North Carolina and, you know, we'll live here in D.C. So two major problems. One, which I'm sure you can expect. To rent my office, which I've got a big office, to rent this office as an apartment, to buy it, because I just hate renting, it'd probably be $800,000. I mean, just easy. But then, and so first of all, how do you get a loan on that? That's the thing. It took 20 years to pay off. But then I also started looking around. I went to dinner with people and I realized, hey, you are all so caught up in the DC scene. Yeah. There's a totally different power setting in DC than when you're at Cracker Barrel in your district and somebody's looking you in the eye and you're like, yeah, why can't you get my dad a small business loan? Oh, I can fix that for you. Normal America is much different than both Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and DC. I mean, to answer your question, I still live in North Carolina. I'm up here probably 40% of the time. Are you homesick when you're in DC or just so busy? Man, I wake up every single morning with an enemy. And I mean, that is, you know, I think to me it's government control. And so I wake up fired up when I'm here. I don't know how a lot of, I mean, the average age in Congress is in their 60s. So all these people got kids, grandkids, all this stuff. And you know, and also just getting old is not for cowards. And I don't know how they're able to do it because I'm 25. I can go until 4 a.m. no problem. But I also don't have any kids. So my wife, she's an anesthetist, so she might be at a hospital taking care of a pregnant army. So she's not. I'm not worried about. Oh, I'm missing out on my wife. Biggest thing I miss is really my dog. If I'm here, I'm all about it. Hey guys, want to take a second to talk to you about Fume, F-U-M. If you go to FUMessential.com and use promo code MALICE10, you get 10% off your entire order. What is Fume? It's not a vape, it's not a cigarette, it's a hollow piece of Canadian maple, and they got different cores infused with the benefits of the world super plants. So it's a great way to get off of smoking, and it's not addictive, completely natural. So they've got a black pepper core one, which helps you reduce your craving for nicotine. They've got one for peppermint for better breath, lavender for relaxation. It's no smoke, you just take this little core, fan it out, stick it in, and it looks like a steampunk cigar or something. It looks really cool, but it's something that will help you know what to do with your hands, because that ritual is something that smokers are so part of the addiction. If you go to website FUMessential.com and use promo code MALICE, you get 10% off your entire order. You can subscribe for monthly deliveries and never have to worry about your team supply or check out new products a la carte. Let's get back to the show. Every politician gets attacked in the most horrific personal ways. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. Do people come at you, about your disability on social media, and how do you deal with that? Yeah, man, so there's a freaking far-right nut. You know, there's some people on the very, very fringe far right who I think are very violent and need to be expelled from everything on social Republicans or whatever. But I mean, sometimes they'll just come after me and say, oh, how are you even going to stand? You can't stand. I mean, you said you're going to stand up for us. You know, stuff like that. But most people, and I will say probably because of all the virtue signaling the left has to do, they're pretty daggum kind about not attacking me, the actual politicians. But, you know, just kind of normal people, they'll attack me on left and right. I mean, because, like you said, politicians get attacked in most horrific ways. I would say probably Elon, Omar, AOC, Dan Crenshaw, Matt Gaetz, myself would probably take the worst of it. Yeah. But it's, but you know, everybody has to deal with it, man. Sometimes we pass each other in the halls. It's like, oh, hey, what crime did you commit last week? According to the paper. Like, oh, apparently I'm participating in tax fraud. What one of them said one time. And walk off. It's just like another day. Have you met Tammy Duckworth and Governor Abbott of Texas? So Governor Abbott of Texas, I have to give a big shout out to. When I first got out of the hospital, Mark Meadows gave me a job. He's the former congressman for the seat I now hold. I was his staff assistant, worked in his district office, and you know, I called. I just was looking up, politicians in wheelchairs. Greg Abbott picked up the phone, called him, and I knew to get in touch with the scheduler, and I kind of used my boss's credentials to get there. And then I was, hey, so Congressman actually doesn't need to talk to Greg, Governor Abbott, but I really don't know how to. I don't know how to cut my suits, and so people. So, you know, because when we wear a suit, after the pocket, it goes very low, so I have to get them especially made to be cut so that they don't stick in my wheels. Yeah, okay. And so that was, I talked to him before, and he called me after I won. He said, didn't I help you with your suits 6 years ago? I was like, yes, sir. And I'm like, I wear damn good suits now. And so we were laughing. But I have not met Duckworth yet, but I'm glad she was here, because she really kind of, they make things much more accessible because of that. Yeah, are there still issues getting around in D.C.? I would think with the American Disabilities Act, which Bob Dole, shepherded, that, things would actually be, especially at the federal government level, would be taken care of. They are. The biggest problem is, I think as using an amendment to the American Disability Act, which I'm going to introduce, is that historic buildings and historic sites are not accountable for this. But man, all of D.C. is a historic site, so there's like, so many restaurants do not have a ramp to get up. It's always up a step. And so that's really difficult. Fortunately, I have staff to fix it, but man, unless I have a meeting there, if they're not accessible, I will not give them my dollars. Just because it's absurd. But I will say that, the biggest thing, obviously there's a lot we can unpack about what happened on January 6th and riots and everything, but we had to be evacuated, once they were trying to get to the doors, and we were going. And the evacuation route is not handicap accessible, which I found out very late. And so, it's down the 2 flights there, so, I fortunately have some good buddies who, they went with me down some elevators. We kind of braved the crowds on our own, but it was something. So that's something they're fixing now. Is that the kind of thing that you have to, I'm sure you have to do this every so often, like your friends have to carry up a flight of stairs or a flight downstairs. Is it awkward, or like, are you over it at this point? Like, or just anyone having to deal with this? Like, how should I handle it if my friend is in that situation? It all depends on how close you are to them. I encourage people in my situation, give extraordinarily clear instructions. Okay, it's kind of awkward to give instructions to your friends. Fortunately, a lot of my friends work for me, so we kind of have that command structure already set up. But there's a no rule. Never, once I get into the car, because we do. Normally I ride in a big SUV. I drive a Dodge Challenger, so then I'll pull my wheelchair apart from the backseat. But normally I can't. When I'm riding my SUV, I'll hop up, get in, and then somebody will take my wheelchair and put it in the back. But I have a rule: no one's allowed to close my door. Sometimes when you're reaching out, if you were to hit my hands and break them, I would be out of commission for a year. Can you describe what it's like to someone who's not a paraplegic? What it feels like? Not, do you have sensation in your legs? Like, what is that? Is that like when your legs fall asleep? Like, help me understand what it's like for you. Yeah, so I'm gonna grab a pin here. So think of this as my spine. Okay. I got hurt just below the center, which is the T12 vertebrae. Okay. And where that happens, that's when the spinal cord. It's a tight little fiber optic cord. But that is where it starts to turn into a horsetail. So from here, they all spread out and go to all the different parts of the legs. The problem with me being hurt there is that if I was hurt one level higher, things will all go in a line. So I can't feel from my nipples down, and then as nerves start to heal, they'd all go inch by inch. But for me, it's completely random. So I can feel temperature with my right foot. I've got a 3rd degree burn on my left foot right now, so I can't feel temperature there, and I burned it and I'll just say. But then on my inner right thigh, I can feel there. One of my hip flexors, I can flex. I got my right quad, which I can motion. And I do that every night, Michael. So I do right there. Like Baker doing it every night. So my sensation is very sporadic. I will tell you the worst thing about my accident is there's a thing called neuropathy. The easiest way for me to explain this is that it's basically phantom pains. And so midway through my back, when my car was on fire, when my spinal cord was swelling. And so all the signals coming from my legs were, holy shit, I'm on fire. And then all of a sudden, all the information stopped because it destroyed spinal cord. Just the swelling of the accident. But then once my swelling went down, everything was getting better. I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I'd call my nurse, and I would sign for fire. Because I felt like my legs were on fire. So what happened is, when my spinal cord is constantly trying to reconnect my brain. Your body's amazing. So many things that heal on me just over time. But sometimes it sends that signal trying to get back to my brain. It gets through kind of a big traffic jam. It's almost a scar on that area that says, hey, I'm on fire. And so I deal with this thing called nerve pain where my legs just explode. And it is awful. Probably happens about 30 times a day. I got some medical tech that helps. But it's awful. How do kids deal with you? Because kids are curious. Kids also say whatever's on their mind. You're eye level with them. They may not have seen someone in a wheelchair. So you're obviously a friendly dude. So that must be fun for you because they're coming from a good place usually. All the time. So many, specifically young boys. I'm trying to get my nieces involved, but they're all girls for them. But young boys especially love the wheels and the mechanisms. I got these scissor brakes on my wheel. I'll show them how those work. So I can entertain a group of 10 kids for 40 minutes just walking through my wheelchair and pushing me around. But so often, I'll be rolling past a booth and like Charlie's rolling down and all of a sudden, you hear some kid, Mom, why is he in a wheelchair? Mom, why is he sitting down? And a lot of kids think it's cool because, obviously I'll try to show off so they don't the stigma they have for people in wheelchairs is not, you're incapable of doing it. So I'll do a wheelie, I'll jump up, I'll do all kinds of stuff, I'll pick them up, hold them upside down. And they have a lot of fun with that, but it's, kids are very honest about it, just saying, hey, why the heck are you sitting down? What made you decide at such a young age that you had what it takes to make it to Congress? I'm sure it's a question you have to deal with all the time. So, you have a lot of letters after your name. I think Elon Musk has a great quote. You can go to college and still be an idiot. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and he's based on if you want to do something that requires extreme levels of competence, you just need to know that you can demonstrate extreme levels of competence. And so I knew going into the campaign, wow, I'm 24 years old, technically not even constitutionally eligible to be a congressman that day. And so, fortunately, my birthday came right before you watch. And as we're going forward with it, I'm talking to my wife who, she was like, I don't know how you can win. There's 12 people involved in this primary. It's going to be a nice fight phone booth. But I was just so sure that I knew the people in Western North Carolina. And I saw the problem going on in Washington, D.C. and how inept people are. I was like, I know what to say. These people want somebody who's going to say like this, get the job done. And so, started going through my campaign. Everybody just wrote me off and said, oh, hey, love everything you're doing, but you're just too young. You need to wait in line. But you've got the right values, you've got the right figure. Great. Just wait for a while. Those other people ahead of you. And then the first debate came, 12-way debate. And I knew I was either make it or break it here. So it blew it out of the water. But at some point, I literally said, people often say, you have to wait my turn, wait in line. And I would physically look around the room and say, who the hell are we in line behind? And obviously that's totally something contrary to what a normal politician would say. Oh, I really appreciate the work that this state congressman has done, and this particular individual is judge. But I was like, who the hell are we in line behind? So whoever's ahead of us, at that point we're $20 trillion in debt. Both Republicans and Democrats throwing us in debt. My kids are going to have to bear the brunt of that in taxes, and then our country's on fire. And so it was why I got involved is because I think if our generation waits until we're 50 years old to get involved, I do not think we'll have a country to inherit. Where do you have to spend extra money? Like suits is one thing you mentioned, right? Do you only have one pair of shoes or a couple pair of shoes because you're not wearing them down? What are the expenses that I'm not aware of, and where are you saving money, if anywhere? Man, I've got the greatest Nike collection from years and years, and they are still so shiny because they never get dirty. It's great. But so I probably got 3 or 4 pairs of dress shoes that I rarely have to scrub them up because they're always fine. I gotta spend a lot of extra money on suits. There's ways you can do it cost efficient. If anybody has a question about it in your wheelchair, it's like, hey, I'm just gonna go to the men's warehouse and get a cheap suit. I can teach you how to tell a seamstress to cut it to do it for $30. But I get my suit specially made and everything. But what things you have to spend money on, putting hand controls inside a car, very expensive. You gotta ship parts off, get the communication relays all set up. And mine set up like a fighter jet, my Challenger, so I pull back and that accelerates, push forward, that stops. Where the missile button would be is my horn. It's great. That's a major extra expense. And then if I'm ever gonna live somewhere new, go into a new home or I'm moving, there's just a lot. I gotta remodel every single bathroom. I gotta go in and figure out a way to lower down the countertops, the granite countertops in place. I'm a big cook, so I gotta make sure that do I have enough storage for all my pots and pans on the lower cabinets and not be able to access the islands. And so that's extra money. My dog was a little more expensive than most dogs because it's a fully trained attack dog, but also pulling up hills. So really? What kind of dog? It's a German Shepherd. Yeah, they're the best. They're so smart. From Germany, trained in Saudi Arabia. He's bad to the bone. What's his name? His name's Beowulf. Awesome. Madison, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview? man, you know what? And I'm probably getting in trouble with people back home for saying this, but just getting to talk shit with somebody on the other side. I mean, really, you know, just so often you see in the news, oh, well, this person said that, you know, they don't like this decision. Then all of a sudden, both sides, they recede into one another, and then it's an echo chamber, and then you become an extremist. And, you know, extremism feels good because you can blame every single issue you're dealing with on that group, or on that party, on that ethnicity. But you have to take no personal responsibility yourself. Man, that's crap. It's up to you to change the way you feel. I mean, you hear this quote all the time, but life is 80% what happens to you, or 20% what happens to you, 80% how you respond to it. And I could have decided, Michael, when you said, you know, Mass Fox flood data, appeal to, you know, on MSNBC. Well, I just feel like he's very ableist, and you know, you can go on, make up an ism or something. But you know what? That's what's wrong with the country. Don't cancel your neighbor, just go communicate with them. And you'll find out that we agree on 80% of the issues. But mainstream media and Washington, you know, there is an establishment out there. You know, I think we're starting to feel that in the Republican Party, but there's the establishment that they profit off of division. And so does mainstream media. So, you know, I like the fact that you and I can set an example saying, man, we can disagree politically. You can even punch me in the gut with a funny line, and, you know, with a quick jab, but we're still friends. You know, I'm going to say two things. One, you are welcome.
States should. I told you that I came to Washington, D.C. to fight for our values. I am honored to stand for this district to take the hits from radicals on the left, and I promise you that I will never back down. This fight is bigger than all of us. America first. NC11 first. Onward. Bombs 97. Ebelch. The one thing that gives a liberal nightmares is a conservative who won't be bullied. Make no mistake, the left wants to strip your rights from you. I won't let them, and that makes them furious. As your representative, I will take the hits so that your freedoms remain safe. 24x1 Still. Democrat logic allowing funerals. Bad immoral super spreader event releasing hundreds of COVID-positive illegals. Great compassionate, not at all harmful. Got it. Democrat governors forced COVID-positive patients into nursing homes. Now a Democrat administration is allowing COVID-positive illegal immigrants to flood across the border. These are the people that called us murderers for celebrating Thanksgiving with family. Vote them out. Biden has been in office for 45 days. Let that sink in. Imagine the damage to America that will occur in the next 45. According to Chris Hayes of Mozambique, the only power the GOP has right now is in delaying and trolling the Dems. Glad the left is finally admitting that they don't care about the opinions of 74 million voters or the representatives elected by them.